In Batman the Animated Series, the characters depicted in the cartoon were done so skillfully and faithfully to the source material. In many cases, they were even considered to be the greatest adaptations of the fictional characters to have ever been implemented outside of the Batman comics. Due to the timing of when the series was originally broadcasted, some characters were adopted with interesting modifications from the source material, which in retrospect were even better than the comic material that the animation was based on. But the speculative scenario is this: why was Bane adopted so differently for Batman the Animated Series? The character of Bane was introduced in 1993, with him being the main aspect of the Nightfall storyline from 1993 through 1994, as the entire event was one of the major first arcs for Batman since the first reboot of DC's continuity with the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. Bane was depicted as a huge threat to Batman, and for the time brought attention back to the Batman comics, where sales and popular opinions of Batman had been faltering since the 1980s. And the Tim Burton Batman movies of the late 1980s and early 1990s didn't necessarily boost sales of the comics as much as had been originally expected by DC executives. At the time, producers of Batman the Animated Series knew of the Nightfall arc, and although it brought attention once more to the comics, adopting Bane into the series was a source of contention among screenwriters and officials. Some desired it, while more actually thought of Bane as a plot mechanism to bring attention back to the Batman comics, which were still struggling with sales at the time. Despite the minority whom had wanted Bane to be adopted for the animated series, it wasn't done, thinking that it wasn't necessarily worth the time nor the effort to do so. Eventually in 1994, due to the event bringing so much attention to the Batman comics, there was little choice but to adapt Bane for the animated series. Due to the Nightfall arc occurring nearly at the same time the episode was being conceived of, written for, and animated to Batman the Animated Series, Bane had technically incorrect, modified, or vague details. Due to the importance of Bane in the Batman comics at the time, executives and producers for Batman the Animated Series intentionally had Henry Silva, the voice actor for Bane, to exaggerate aspects of Bane's voice for the series, and to make him sound as menacing or threatening as possible, and for the character to be depicted and heard with a thick Latin American accent when speaking English. Unconfirmed sources mention that Henry Silva had concerns for the depiction being somewhat stereotypical or even racist, but he performed the lines and portrayed the character as requested. One of the most iconic changes from the comic to the cartoon was the fact that Bane did not break Batman's back as it was depicted in the Nightfall story arc, but at the last moment Batman uses a batarang to break the wrist-controlled pump that regulated the flow of venom into Bane's body. While the breaking of Batman's back was an iconic moment in modern Batman comics, because nothing of the sort had ever been done previously in modern DC comics. However, nothing of the sort was allowed in the comics due to the complications that it might bring about in the series. When Batman defeated Bane, he later commented that without the venom, Bane was nothing more than an average thug. On later dialogue had it that Bane was nothing without the enhancement. Opinions had it that Batman openly mocking and belittling Bane, even unmasking Bane, were all intentionally done by executives and producers of Batman the Animated Series, due to a majority of officials relating to the series being neutral to slightly against Bane being even in the cartoon at the time, as in the series, that was the only appearance of Bane in the original cartoon, and from the lore of the original 2 seasons, Bane was never to be seen nor depicted in Gotham again, as eventually this was later ignored for the new Batman adventures, with Bane making occasional appearances in the series with a vastly different portrayal from the initial or original depiction.